Before we start, please make sure to like this video and hit this subscribe button, so you never miss a story like this. And also comments where you are watching from, how many sons and daughters you have. Thanks.
My name is Elena Rivers. I am 33 years old, and if you're listening to this, please don't judge me until you've heard everything. People often believe betrayal is born from hatred, from broken marriages, from bitter fights. But mine was born from silence. Backhand index pointing. Right before I begin, let me ask you, have you ever taken someone for granted, believing they'd always be there, no matter what you did? If yes, then stay with me till the end of this story, because it might just feel uncomfortably familiar. When I married Adrian, I thought I had everything a woman could want. He wasn't a man of grand gestures, but he was steady. The kind of man who made sure the gas tank in my car was always full, who brewed coffee before I woke up, who checked the locks every night before bed. Safe. Reliable. But safety, after years, it started to feel like routine. Our dinners turned into silent chewing, our weekends became a cycle of chores, and our conversations were nothing more than reminders. Don't forget to pay the bill. The trash goes out tonight. Then, one afternoon, an unexpected message lit up my phone. It was from Julian Ward. My old flame. Julian had been the wild one in my life years ago. The kind of man who could make an ordinary Tuesday night feel like an adventure. With him, I used to feel alive, reckless, untamed. Seeing his name again was like opening a door I thought I'd locked forever. Elena, do you ever miss the old days? The message read. My fingers hovered over the screen. I should have ignored it. I should have deleted it and gone back to folding laundry. But instead, I typed back. Sometimes. That one word was enough to spark a fire I thought had burned out. Julian knew exactly what to say to lure me in. You deserve more than routine, he wrote. Let me remind you of who you used to be. His words were a dagger and a lifeline all at once. Because the truth was, I did miss who I used to be. I missed feeling like someone wanted me, desired me, saw me as more than just a wife checking off daily tasks. So when Julian suggested a trip, a secret escape, I told myself it would just be a small break. Just a little time away to feel alive again. Adrian didn't question much when I mentioned I'd be away with some friends. He nodded, kissed my forehead softly, and went back to reading his paper. That calm acceptance made it even easier to lie. Before I boarded the plane, I did something I now regret more than anything else in my life. I blocked Adrian's number. My excuse? I told myself I wanted no interruptions, no questions, no guilt creeping in. For 1 week, I wanted to disappear into a fantasy. Julian greeted me at the airport with the same smile that once made me reckless in my 20s. He swept me into expensive dinners, whispered flattery across candlelit tables, kissed me like no one else was watching. With him, I wasn't Elena Rivers, the wife trapped in silence. I was Elena, the woman who laughed too loud, who danced barefoot on hotel balconies, who drank champagne like it was water. For a while, I forgot Adrian even existed. I convinced myself this was harmless. That I'd return to my quiet marriage, slip into my role as though nothing had happened. But every night, in the quiet after Julian fell asleep, guilt tapped at my chest. I buried it by switching my phone to airplane mode. I didn't even want to see if Adrian had tried to reach me. The week passed in a blur of kisses, hotel sheets, and stolen moments. But when the trip ended and I boarded the plane home, the fantasy began to unravel. I unblocked Adrian's number, expecting a flood of missed calls, messages filled with worry and questions. My stomach twisted, already rehearsing the excuses I'd give. But when I looked at my phone, there was nothing. No calls. No messages. No desperate voicemails asking where I was. Just silence. I swallowed hard. Maybe Adrian was angry. Maybe he was giving me space until I came home. I tried to convince myself of that. But a gnawing fear settled inside me. When I finally opened the door to our house, everything felt wrong. The lights were off. Too off. His shoes weren't by the door. His jacket wasn't hanging on the chair. The faint scent of his cologne, always lingering in the living room, was missing. I dropped my bag and called out softly, "Adrian?" My voice echoed back at me, "Empty." That's when I saw it. On the kitchen counter, a single envelope with my name written in Adrian's familiar, steady handwriting. My hands trembled as I tore it open. "Elena," it began. "I don't know where you went or why you shut me out, but your silence told me everything I needed to know. A husband should never have to beg for a place in his wife's life." I waited. I worried. And I realized I deserve more than being blocked out of your world. By the time you read this, I'll be gone. I won't wait for explanations anymore. Goodbye. The words blurred as tears filled my eyes. For the first time in my life, I understood what true silence felt like. That night, sitting in the empty kitchen with Adrian's letter in my hands, I realized something terrifying. The man I thought would never leave me had already chosen to walk away. And it was only the beginning of my punishment. I didn't sleep that night. I couldn't. The letter trembled in my hands long after I'd read it, and every second of silence inside that house was like a knife cutting deeper into my chest. My name is Elena Rivers, and this is the part of my story where I began to realize that one selfish decision can unravel everything you thought was permanent. Backhand index pointing. Right before I go on, let me ask you, if the person who once promised you forever suddenly disappeared, would you fight to bring them back, or would you let them go? The house felt like a stranger's place without Adrian. Every corner reminded me of him. The neatly stacked coffee mugs he always washed before bed. The throw blanket folded over the couch, exactly how he liked it. But he wasn't there to use them anymore. I picked up my phone and dialed his number, praying to hear his voice. But the call went straight to voicemail. I tried again. And again. Each time, nothing. "Adrian, it's me. Please, please come home." "I can explain," I whispered, though I knew explanations would sound hollow now. By morning, I was frantic. I drove to his office, hoping maybe he'd gone there early. But his desk was empty, cleared out, as though he had never worked there at all. A coworker glanced at me awkwardly. "Oh. Adrian? He handed in his resignation last week. Didn't he tell you?" My chest tightened. "No, he didn't." The man shrugged uncomfortably, already turning away. That was the first time I realized Adrian hadn't just left our home. He had left his life. The following days were a blur of searching. I drove to his parents' house, but they said he hadn't been there. I mailed him letters, desperate ones, but there was never a reply. I even checked old haunts, cafes we used to go to, the little library where he loved to read, but Adrian was nowhere. It was as if he had evaporated. Meanwhile, Julian tried to call me. I ignored him. The sound of his name on my phone made my stomach churn. What once felt thrilling now felt like poison. I had destroyed my marriage for this man, and yet, I wanted nothing to do with him. At night, I would sit in Adrian's chair, clutching his sweater, inhaling what little scent remained. My friends noticed the changes in me, how pale I'd become, how I no longer wore my wedding ring. They asked questions. I lied. I said Adrian and I had grown apart, that it was mutual. But inside, the truth screamed at me. I had betrayed him, and now I was paying the price. One evening, a knock rattled the front door. My heart leapt. I thought it was him. I ran, nearly tripping over myself, and yanked it open. But it wasn't Adrian. It was a courier, holding a large brown envelope. "Delivery for Elena Rivers," he said. With shaking hands, I signed and closed the door. I ripped the envelope open on the kitchen counter, and what I found made my knees buckle. Inside were divorce papers. Clean. Direct. No bitterness in the wording, no accusations, just finality. I sank into the chair where I had once read his goodbye letter. Tears blurred my vision as I traced his neat signature at the bottom. He hadn't even wanted to see me to end things. He had simply erased me, the way I had erased him when I blocked his number. But something inside me refused to believe it was over. Not like this. The next morning, I made a decision. I packed a bag and drove to the only place I hadn't checked yet, Adrian's childhood cabin in the woods, a place he once told me about but rarely visited. It was his sanctuary, the one place where he said he could truly think. The drive was long, and the deeper I went into the forest roads, the more doubts crept in. What if he wasn't there? What if I was chasing a ghost? By the time I arrived, dusk was settling. The cabin stood quietly beneath the trees, its windows dark, its porch covered in fallen leaves. My heart pounded as I climbed the steps and knocked on the door. No answer. I tried the handle. It turned. Inside, the cabin smelled of wood and faint cologne. My breath caught in my throat. He had been here. I stepped inside, scanning the room. A jacket was draped over the couch. His journal lay on the table, half open, with his handwriting scrawled across the pages. I reached for it, hands trembling. But before I could read a single word, a floorboard creaked behind me. "Why are you here, Elena?" I froze. My chest constricted. Slowly, I turned around. Adrian stood there, framed by the dim light of the doorway. His face was calm but unreadable, his eyes distant in a way I had never seen before. "Adrian," my voice cracked. "Please, just listen to me. I can explain." He shook his head, his expression unreadable. "There's nothing to explain. I already know everything I need to." "No, you don't." I stepped toward him, desperate. "It was a mistake, I swear. It didn't mean anything. I just..." "Just what?" His voice was steady, almost cold. "You blocked me out. You vanished without a word. Do you know what it feels like to call your wife 100 times and realize she doesn't want to hear your voice?" I couldn't answer. Tears poured down my face as I shook my head. "I'm sorry," I whispered. "Please, Adrian. Please don't do this. I can change. I'll do anything." For a moment, I thought I saw a flicker of pain in his eyes. But then, just as quickly, it was gone. "You should go," he said quietly. "This place isn't for you anymore." I dropped to my knees, clutching the journal on the table. "Adrian, please, don't shut me out. Don't let this be the end." But he only turned away, walking into the shadows of the cabin. And in that moment, I realized something even more terrifying than losing him. I realized I might already be too late, and if you've followed me this far, you already know I made the worst mistake of my life. I lost my husband, Adrian, not because of fate, but because of a choice. A selfish, reckless choice. Backhand index pointing right, but here's the thing nobody tells you. Sometimes the people you betray don't scream, don't fight, don't beg. They simply vanish. And that silence hurts more than any shouting ever could. The night I found Adrian at the cabin, his words replayed in my mind like a cruel echo, "This place isn't for you anymore." But what he didn't know, what he couldn't stop, was the part of me that refused to give up. As he disappeared into the bedroom, I sat at the table with his journal clutched in my hands. My heart pounded. Opening it felt like crossing a line, but hadn't we already crossed every line there was? I flipped through the pages. The handwriting was his, the neat, controlled. At first, it was ordinary. Notes about work. Quotes he liked. A grocery list. But then, the entries shifted. "I don't know who she is anymore. I wait for her to look at me the way she used to, but her eyes are always somewhere else. How do you stay married to someone who has already left you in their heart?" My hands shook as I turned the pages faster. Each word was a dagger, cutting deeper. I called her 23 times today. No answer. Maybe I should stop trying. Maybe she's already gone. The last entry made my breath catch. By the time she comes back, I won't be here. Not in the way she expects. I slammed the journal shut, my chest heaving. What did that mean? Not here in the way I expected? I rushed to the bedroom, but Adrian wasn't there. The bed was empty, the closet half-packed. My panic rose as I searched the cabin, calling his name. But the only response was the whisper of wind through the trees outside. He was gone again. For days, I returned to that cabin, hoping he'd come back. Sometimes I thought I heard footsteps in the woods, or the faint sound of a door closing, but whenever I checked, there was nothing. Meanwhile, the divorce papers sat unsigned on my kitchen counter. Every time I looked at them, guilt gnawed at me. But more than guilt, it was fear. Fear that if I signed, it would be over forever. Fear that if I didn't, Adrian would still vanish into a life without me. I needed answers. One evening, I drove back to the cabin, determined not to leave until I faced him again. I parked outside, waited for hours in the car. The woods grew dark, the cabin a silent silhouette against the moonlight. Then, movement. A shadow flickered past the window. My pulse raced. I climbed out, crunching leaves underfoot, and pushed the door open. Inside, Adrian was standing at the table, staring down at his journal. He didn't look surprised to see me. "Elena," he said flatly. "Why are you here again?" "Because I can't let this end like this," I said, my voice shaking. Please just tell me what you want from me. I'll do anything." His eyes met mine, filled with something unreadable. "I don't want anything from you anymore." The words nearly broke me. But then, I noticed something. On the table beside his journal lay a set of documents I hadn't seen before. I reached for them before he could stop me. They weren't just divorce papers. They were property transfer forms. Bank account closures. Notices of address change. He wasn't just leaving me. He was erasing every trace of his old life. "Adrian," my voice cracked. "What are you doing? Where are you going?" He pulled the papers from my grip, his jaw tight. "It doesn't matter. What matters is I can't be tied to you anymore. Not after what you did." I stumbled forward, tears streaming. "I know I hurt you. I know I destroyed everything. But please, don't disappear like this. Don't throw it all away without even letting me fight for us." He laughed bitterly. It wasn't the warm laugh I remembered, but a hollow sound. "Fight? You didn't fight for us when it mattered, Elena. You fought for excitement. For someone else's arms. I was stupid. I cried. I thought I wanted adventure. I thought I needed something more. But the truth is, the only thing I need is you." For a long moment, he just stared at me. His silence was worse than anger. Then he whispered, almost too softly to hear. "You only realized that after you lost me." The tension in the room was suffocating. I wanted to reach for him, but my body froze. He gathered the documents, tucking them into a bag by the door. "Adrian, wait," I pleaded. "Don't do this. Please. If you walk away now, I'll never forgive myself." He paused, his back to me. His voice, when it came, was quiet but sharp. "You're right. You'll never forgive yourself. And maybe that's the only punishment you deserve." With that, he opened the door and stepped out into the night. I chased after him, but the woods swallowed him whole. One moment he was there, the next he was gone. I collapsed on the porch, sobbing into my hands. The weight of my choices crushed me. I had betrayed the man who once promised me forever, and now he was slipping away like a shadow I could never catch. But as I sat there, broken and alone, I noticed something strange. A second journal lay beneath the couch cushion, half hidden. Different from the first. I pulled it out, my hands trembling, and flipped it open. The words inside were darker, sharper. Sometimes I think disappearing isn't enough. Sometimes I wonder if the only way to end this pain is to end everything. My blood ran cold. Adrian wasn't just leaving me. He was planning something far worse. If you've stayed with me this far, then you already know, my husband, Adrian, was slipping away from me. Not just emotionally. Not just through divorce papers. But maybe, forever. Backhand index pointing right. Let me ask you, if you discovered someone you love might be planning to end their life, how far would you go to stop them? The second journal shook me to my core. Sometimes I think disappearing isn't enough. Sometimes I wonder if the only way to end this pain is to end everything. The words blurred through my tears. My chest tightened until it was hard to breathe. Adrian wasn't just walking away. He was broken in ways I hadn't seen, or maybe in ways I had refused to see. Suddenly, all the lies, all the guilt, all the betrayal didn't matter. None of it mattered if I lost him forever. I had to find him. But where? The cabin was empty again by the time I looked around. His jacket was gone. His bag, too. He had left in the middle of the night. I searched the drawers, the shelves, every corner of the cabin for clues. Nothing. Then, tucked inside the back of the journal, I found a folded piece of paper. It was a map. An old one, with a trail circled in red leading deep into the woods. My heart raced as I traced the line with my finger. At the end of the trail was a mark, an X. I didn't know what he intended to do there, but every instinct in me screamed that I couldn't waste time. The woods swallowed me as I followed the trail. Branches clawed at my clothes, the ground soft with damp leaves. The deeper I went, the darker it felt, even though the sun was still up. Every step echoed with fear. What if I'm too late? What if he doesn't want to be found? I stumbled over roots, my breath ragged, until finally I reached a clearing. At the center stood an old wooden bridge stretching over a rushing river below. The boards looked worn, some missing entirely. And there, standing at the edge of the bridge, was Adrian. Adrian! I screamed, my voice breaking. He turned slowly, his face pale in the fading light. He didn't look startled. He looked resigned. "Elena," he said quietly. "You shouldn't be here." I ran forward, but he lifted a hand. "Don't. Just stay where you are. Please," I begged. "Come back with me. We can talk. We can fix this." He shook his head, the river roaring beneath us. "There's nothing to fix. You made your choice. You left me long before I walked away." "No." I cried. "I was selfish. I was stupid. But I never stopped loving you, Adrian. I never stopped needing you." His eyes glistened, but his voice stayed steady. "Love doesn't look like what you did, Elena. Love doesn't block your husband's number. Love doesn't vanish for a week with another man." Each word was a knife. "I know," I whispered. "I know I destroyed everything. But if you step off that bridge, if you do what you're thinking, then I lose you forever. And you lose every chance to heal. Don't punish yourself for my sins." For a long moment, silence hung between us. Only the river spoke, wild and relentless. Adrian looked down at the water, then back at me. His hands trembled at his sides. "Do you know what it feels like," he said softly, "to be invisible in your own marriage? To give everything and get silence in return?" "Yes," I admitted through tears. "Because that's what I feel now. Every day without you feels like I'm already dead inside. Please, Adrian, don't let this be the end of your story." He stepped back from the edge, just slightly. My lungs filled with hope. I reached out a hand, begging silently for him to take it. But then, his expression hardened again. "You say you want me," he said, his voice trembling. "But is it because you love me, or because you can't handle the guilt?" The question ripped through me. I froze. Because I didn't know how to answer. Tears streamed down my face. Maybe both. But does it matter? If guilt is what brought me here, then let it. All I know is I can't live in a world without you. Please, Adrian. Give me one chance to prove you're still everything to me. For the first time, his eyes softened. His lips parted, as if he wanted to say something. But then, a crack echoed through the air. The bridge beneath him groaned, one of the old boards snapping loose. Adrian stumbled, his arms flailing as his foot slipped through the gap. "Adrian!" I screamed, lunging forward. Time slowed. His body teetered on the edge, the raging river below ready to swallow him whole. I grabbed his arm, pulling with all my strength. "Don't let go!" I cried. His hand gripped mine desperately, our eyes locking. For the first time in months, it felt like we were both fighting for each other. But his voice broke through the chaos, ragged and weak. "Elena, why should I hold on?" This is the moment everything came crashing down. Backhand index pointing right before I take you there, let me ask, if you had one final chance to save the person you love, after you were the one who broke them, would you fight with all your strength, or would you let go? Adrian's hand trembled in mine as the old bridge moaned beneath us. His weight pulled at me, my arms screaming in pain as I tried to keep him from falling into the rushing river below. "Elena, why should I hold on?" His voice was hoarse, his eyes raw with despair. "Because you matter," I shouted over the roar of the water. "Because your life means something, Adrian. Even if I failed you, the world hasn't. You still have a future, you still have dreams." He shook his head weakly, his grip loosening. "I don't. Not anymore. Not with you." Panic surged through me. "Then don't hold on for me. Hold on for you." His eyes flickered with something, doubt, maybe hope, but the board beneath me cracked, reminding us both how little time we had. I dug my heels into the splintering wood, pulling with every ounce of strength left in me. "Please, Adrian," I begged, tears streaming. "If you fall, then my betrayal wins. Don't let me be the reason you stop living." For a heartbeat, the world went silent. Then Adrian's grip tightened. His arm flexed, and together, with one final desperate pull, I dragged him onto the bridge. We collapsed onto the planks, gasping for air, trembling from head to toe. For a long time, neither of us spoke. The only sound was the river's fury beneath us. Finally, Adrian sat up, staring at the dark forest. His voice was quiet, almost fragile. "You saved me. But I don't know if that changes anything." I wiped my face with trembling hands. "It doesn't have to, not right away. I know I destroyed your trust. I know I don't deserve forgiveness. But please, don't erase yourself because of me." He looked at me then, his eyes red, his face pale. "I don't know if I can ever look at you the same way again." The words cut deep, but I didn't argue. I just nodded. "Then don't look at me the same way. Look at me differently. Look at me as someone who made the worst mistake of her life, but who would spend the rest of her days trying to undo it." Adrian's gaze softened slightly. He didn't reach for me, didn't promise anything. But he also didn't walk away. And for the first time since this nightmare began, that small hesitation felt like hope. We walked back to the cabin in silence. The air was heavy, but it was no longer suffocating. Inside, Adrian picked up his journal and tucked it into his bag. I thought he would tell me to leave again. Instead, he whispered, "You need to sign the papers." The words knocked the breath out of me. My heart shattered all over again. "Adrian, please. Don't make me." "It's not about punishment," he said firmly. It's about freedom. For both of us. Tears welled up in my eyes. But I don't want freedom. I want you. He closed his eyes, pain. Sometimes love isn't enough. Sometimes loyalty is what makes love survive. And when loyalty breaks, the love dies with it. That night, I lay awake in the cabin while Adrian slept in another room. I stared at the ceiling, haunted by his words. He wasn't cruel. He wasn't vengeful. He was simply done. And I realized the truth I had been avoiding since the beginning. I could save his life. But I couldn't save our marriage. Weeks later, I signed the divorce papers. My hand shook as I wrote my name, sealing the end of us. Adrian didn't show up. He didn't need to. He had already chosen his future, one without me in it. Julian tried to call again, but I blocked him without hesitation. He was just a ghost of a mistake, one that had cost me everything real. I went back to my quiet house, but it no longer felt like home. The scent of Adrian's cologne was gone. His shoes would never again be by the door. His laughter would never echo through those walls. I had traded forever for a fleeting thrill, and in the end, I lost the man who once made ordinary days feel extraordinary. Sometimes at night, I still open my phone, scroll to Adrian's contact, and wonder if he ever thinks of me. But I never press call. Because deep down, I know he's living his life somewhere, without me. And maybe that's what love really is. Not clinging when you've broken it beyond repair, but letting the other person choose their own peace. I saved his life on that bridge. But I couldn't save us. And that is a regret I'll carry forever. Pushpin question for viewers. If you were Adrian, would you give Elena a second chance after such a betrayal, or would you walk away forever?